The Apostle Paul, for example, said, "If I could only talk about one thing, let it be Christ crucified." Not the weather, not sports, not politics. Let me talk about Christ crucified. He said, let that be the most important thing that I ever tell other people. Let's talk about the cross. Now, Good Friday is a day that is dedicated solely to the crucifixion. Every reading is from the Passion history, meaning those Bible verses that have to do with Jesus' suffering and death. And the songs that we are singing are heavy with grief and anguish. And just for a moment here, we're going to pause at a scene on top of Mount Calvary, and we're going to look at this moment when the crowds and the soldiers and the criminals are all, well, they're all mocking Jesus. It's really hard to read and really hard to think about. But we're going to look at it, and we're going to see the reason why we preach Christ crucified. Because that is the Savior of the world refusing to save himself, and that is the very Son of God who is suffering on that cross. I'll read these verses again. 2 rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross if you are the Son of God." In the same way, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders mocked him. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him." They are mocking him for the claims that he made about himself, that he'd be breaking down the temple and rebuilding it within 3 days, that he's the King of Israel. They were even mocking him, saying he saved others, but he can't save himself. Is that really something to make fun of him for? Mocking him for saving others, for restoring sight to the blind, for healing the sick and driving out demons and raising the dead? They're mocking him for saving others, and yet at this point he isn't able to save himself. Well, of course, he could have saved himself. Just a few years before this happened, Jesus miraculously passed through an angry mob that was trying to kill him. It was not his time. As a child, God saved him from being killed by King Herod. It was not his time. You see, Jesus is not going to die before it is his time, before he is willing to give up his own life. In John chapter 10, Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he tells them, "I am the good shepherd, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Nobody takes it from me. I lay it down of my own accord." And in just a few minutes, we're going to read about the death of Christ when he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. I know it's kind of cliche for preachers to say, but it is true that it was not the nails that held Jesus to the cross. It was love. Love for sinners. Love for you and me. Jesus could have saved himself, but then he wouldn't have been able to save you.